So it turns out I kind of have a superpower. Ever since I was a baby, I've been able to see, smell, feel, and hear things that other people can't. I feel the air moving around me in a room, and I can very quickly tune into different parts of my body and sense things around me. I basically feel like a little brown bat with echolocation. These sensitivities can come in handy, like if I want to hear my parents whispering in another room. But in general, it's really hard to handle. Doctors call it sensory processing disorder. It's a neurological condition that makes my brain experience sensory information really intensely. Sounds are louder, smells are stronger, my vision is brighter, and I'm much more sensitive to touch. I want to retreat into a little ball when anything gets too intense. So basically, I'm also a walking sea anemone. I always struggled with intense, noisy places, and getting through a school day sometimes feels impossible. With constant sensory overwhelm, I've developed chronic anxiety. My hands are always sweaty, and it feels like there's a giant frog stuck in my throat when I need to do certain things. I've missed out on some awesome experiences like my best friend's birthday parties, and my panic attack can even feel like a medical emergency. I'm so lucky to have had great support from my friends, my parents, and my school. I've helped keep lots of therapists and doctors in business, and I've tried a whole slew of medicines and supplements. But my favorite medicine is spending time with animals. When I was little, I got to have equine therapy with horses. These huge, gentle animals really trust you, and I realized that I want to spend my life working with them. So back in 2020, when COVID began and school went online, it was such an easy switch for me. Instead of being in a noisy classroom, I was in my own little quiet bedroom, and life was good. But then, after a year and a half, when school doors opened, things started falling apart. Coming back into a huge, busy high school during COVID was beyond difficult. In addition to COVID worries and an intense class load, I had a rush of sensory overwhelm. So all the sights and sounds of school felt more intense to me than what the teacher was saying. To cope, I started blanking out of the classroom experience. At home, I wouldn't remember a single thing from class, and I had went from A's to F's on my progress report, since I hadn't turned in a single assignment. One of my best friends had moved away, and I felt so alone. I couldn't enjoy the things I love, and I felt numb, like sometimes I wasn't really even there. The crying would start in the late afternoon and get worse and worse until I cried myself to sleep. Then I started missing school. I felt hopeless, like there was no point even waking up in the morning. I didn't even realize that I was in a depression. When I told my parents how I was feeling, they were so supportive. They helped me get new medicine and explored pulling me out of school for the year to get me time to get better. But I wanted to stay in school. We set little goals to do things I've always enjoyed, like training my dog, drawing, exercising, and riding horses. I forced myself to invite friends over and watch funny cat videos together, which of course helped, and my teachers also gave me extensions on classwork. I started to see that mental health problems are not meant to be dealt with alone. I started feeling better because I connected with my community, and they were there to support me. Even if no one else knew what it felt like to be a sensitive little brown bat or a skittish sea anemone, they were there for me when I reached out. While I was getting better, I saw so many classmates struggling with their own mental health too. My public school in North Portland is the most diverse school in the state. Most seniors weren't even showing up regularly for class. Some of their families aren't comfortable getting support for mental health, and I learned that over 50% of teens in the US reported worse mental health during the pandemic. And during this time, more teens lost their lives to suicide than to COVID. As bad as I felt, I was lucky to be in a middle-class family with supportive parents to help me navigate. Many of my classmates have faced lots more barriers. So I felt I had to try to help. Around this time, I saw last year's OSHA Celebration of Hope video. Hearing the other teen speakers was so inspiring. I reached out to Gayatri, who said that they could send a youth storyteller to my school. So I decided to plan a mental health fair at my school and an assembly. I asked my classmates, teachers, and neighbors to help out. It was a ton of work that took many months, but it was exciting, and each day that I worked on the fair, I started feeling braver and better. I prepared a video with Asha's youth storyteller, Natalie Robinson, sharing her mental health journey and inviting students and teachers to the fair. On the day of the assembly, over 1,000 students watched the video, and teachers had class conversations about it. The fair was optional and after classes, so I was amazed that 762 students attended the fair, and teachers too. I made passports for students so that they got a stamp at each station they visited, and they wrote down what steps they'll like to take to improve their mental health. We had 22 stations set up with a leader and activity at each one. Some tables shared resources to get support, like stations from ASHA, Youth Line Crisis Call Center, our Student Health Center, and tables about sleep habits and climate anxiety. At other stations, students practiced a hands-on skill for mental health. This included animal therapy with goats and rabbits and 4 baby goats, which were the hit of the fair. We had a peer chat station, and we had lots of fun stations about nature art, mindfulness, poetry, journaling, positive self-talk, and problem solving. And my dad led a popular station to make your own stress ball fidget. It was good to see students learning practical skills that they could use right away. On their passports, 97% of the students that said that they had learned something helpful for their mental health, and not a single person said that they didn't learn anything. At least 19 students signed up for a first appointment with a school therapist, and I know how helpful that can be. At least 150 students took home a crisis hotline card from the Youth Line table. And if even one person uses their card, it would be worth it. And 91% of the students at the fair said that they practiced a mental health skill that they'll use in the future. Over 100 students wrote a pledge for their mental health. And here are some of their pledges. I'll let you read these over on your own. My neighbor Ursula volunteered, and this is what she said. It was such a change for all of us to see each other in all our shapes, sizes, and ages in one room. To know that any of us at any time could be having fears, anxieties, and struggles. It is so important to feel like we can share, and this event reminded us that we can. Ursula McCabe, a volunteer. At the fair, we realized we're not alone, and we saw how much support there is in our school. Afterwards, my principal and some students asked if we could do it again next year, and I'm already planning it for the spring. By the way, if you'd like to have a table or volunteer, just let me know. The fair was good for my school, and it was kind of a lifesaver for me. Planning it pushed me out of my bubble, and it helped me connect with people. When you're in the middle of a mental health crisis, the last thing you want to do is be around other people. But to feel better, you have to connect. Togetherness is where the help is. But not just regular togetherness. It has to be brave togetherness where we open up and share our struggles. Today is the first time I've shared my personal story with a group. And while of course I've spent some very productive time worrying about this, I want to help bring these stories out of the shadows and into the light. I imagine the day when mental illnesses are as easy to diagnose and talk about as breaking an arm. We can get closer to that day by connecting and sharing in our communities. ASHA is helping us to get there by inspiring students like me to share our stories. ASHA is making sure that one student at a time, we are changing the culture of mental health. You can make this change possible by supporting ASHA International and making a gift today. Together, we can end the stigma so everyone has the knowledge and tools to enhance their mental health. Thank you for helping change the way we think, talk, and respond to mental illness. And thank you for listening to my TED Talk.